My name is Robert Osborne. I'm 75. I had to think about that. I was born in Allendale, New Jersey, and the hospital was Suffern, New York. That's the only hospital that was around there. All right, my father was Robert J. Osborne Sr., and my mother was Miriam Steese Osborne. Steese is being her last name. And then I had my brother William Osborne, and then James Osborne. When I was born, my father was overseas, and then I was about 2 years old when he came home. I would go to school, and at school was kind of a small school, and then when I finished going to grammar school, I went to high school, which was in Mahwah, New Jersey, and that was for three towns: Allendale, Ramsey, and Mahwah. So it would be bused up to Mahwah and then bus back again. Yeah, Joe Downs, he lived 2 blocks over, and I don't know how do I explain this. My father was very tough with me, and one day he took off his belt and he was going to hit me, and when I saw Mr. Downs walk behind him, I don't know where he came from, and my father brought his arm up with going to hit me, and he grabbed it and he pulled it out of his hand, and he says, "I'm going to use this on you if you hit that boy anymore." He says, "I'm going to take him home with me for right now. I'm going to give him lunch and we're going to talk." And he did. And my father said, actually later on, he says, he did you a favor, and I'm very proud of him, what he did for you. Because I had my own room up there. The house was 3 stories, and I had the top story, and I had my own room up there. So it was really nice. I would tell him that I would tell Mom Downs, Joe's mother. She would call me and say, check on me and stuff, or if she saw me, how you doing? And she said, if you have any issues, you come to my house, you can stay at my house. And a couple of times I went, and Mr. Downs went over and talked to my father, and very nicely, he says, if you don't want your son, I'll take him. Well, that changed the whole thing. So that's between you. I don't care what you want to do with it, but that's what I went through. Mm-hmm. And I go over there, and I had a room upstairs on the 3rd floor with my buddy Joe Downs, and so I worked back and forth between both houses. And then I would go to Crestwood Lake with them. Crestwood Lake was the place to go to swimming and doing a lot of stuff. They had races and everything else. You could race, you could ride bikes and things like that. Mm-hmm. And that was about it. And then the ballpark had 3 ballparks all in the same spot, and we go play baseball. And then we had soccer. They would do soccer there. It was really a good place to go. Oh yeah, and they used to have barbecues when we went to at home or at Crestwood Lake. We used to go down to the movies, and what we'd do is when a freight came by, they'd have to slow down because there were yards there, and they'd slow down, and we'd jump on the train in the back, and we'd ride down. And like I said, I had the woods up the street. It was, I'm going to say, probably 20 acres of woods up there. Now it's all houses, but that helped too. We go there and play in the summer. Oh, and the fire department downstairs, they had a rifle range, and that's where I'd go, and I learned how to shoot a gun, a rifle, and that's what helped me when I went into service into Vietnam over there. When I was in California, we had to go and we were shooting, and I was putting them right in the middle all the time. The guy comes over and he says, "Do you know how to shoot?" I says, "Well, I've been hitting it." He says, "Yeah, I know you're hitting it. What are you doing?" And I says, "Well, I used to shoot." He says, "Oh, okay." And that's when I ended up going to be a sniper. 1963, I think. Yeah, 1963. I volunteered. Well, because you could either, if you volunteered, you would get it. If you didn't, you got they would come and say you're going into the Army. And the only difference was the Army was 2 years, being in the Air Force was 4 years. But for me, and my father talked to me about it, I could have gone in the Marines, and I worked with Marines when I was over in Vietnam. But my father says, you want to go in the Air Force? He says, that's what you want to do. You want to do that. So that's what I did. So I went into the Air Force, and I ended up going out to, in the end, when I went through my service, went to California. I was in California for 2 years, and that's where I was with the base, with the missiles and walking around there. I volunteered at fire departments, and they had the firehouse. They had, I couldn't ride the trucks, but what we did is when the trucks went out, we'd go and clean the bays out. And it was 4 bays, and we'd clean the bays and clean the buildings and everything else. And we'd be there, and we learned how to do hose and things like that. So when I became a fireman, a volunteer fireman, I already had the stuff. I already knew what to do. And that was something we did. And like I said, downstairs we had a rifle range, and we would shoot the rifles. That's where I learned how to shoot. The first year, it wasn't bad because, like I said, we went to the Philippines, and we were training there, and we were there for about a month and a half, or maybe 2 months. I'm not sure. I don't remember. That time. The first time, they shipped us. They put us in a boat, a ship. Oh, it was terrible. It stunk. And everybody had hammocks, and it was like you had 5 hammocks in each compartment there, and then it was 5 on one side, 5 on the other. So you had 10 people sleeping in this one area, and I forget how. Yeah, and that's all you had. You got figure 300 people in that ship, and then when you get hit by a tornado or like a hurricane, and that thing is up and down, backwards, and everything else. I mean, guys, unfortunately, I was in the top. I'm no dummy. I already knew, and I got up there because guys below me, they were, just chucking it up all over the place. So I knew that. So, and we got through that, and we came back, and I'll tell you, it stunk in there. It was really. I had to go out, and they slowed the boat down. I had to get buckets and buckets of water, and just clean the whole place out while we were going over. Yeah, because Hawaii was the first time. It was like that was the American, and then after that, it was outside. Yeah. What they did is they taught us how to really shoot, and had a handgun and also a rifle, and because I was able to shoot very well, they put a scope on it. So I was a sniper also, and I had 2. One was for day, and there's one for night. There's a night light, and what you do is you turn it on, and it gives you like a television. You can see it at night, and it was pretty cool. I really at the first time I didn't really think about it because like I said, I used to play war, and it was fine to me. I didn't mind, and when I got through basic training and everything, I had already been playing Army and everything, and to me it was just normal. But then when I got over there and saw what was going on, it was sobering. Well, we came in, and I can't think of the name of the town. It was down south, and they loaded us in trucks, and we came up these dirt highways they had, basically dirt highways, and there were a lot of people living along it and everything else, and they were very friendly. They would be out there watching. They'd shake their hands at us, and stuff like that. And then we went up to Phuket Air Base, which was being built. No, because I was protecting the base. As they were building the stuff down there, we go out and we make sure, because what happened was that they were out there trying to build Phuket Air Base, the runways, because they're for these big huge bombers coming in, and they were getting shot at from across the way. They had the what I call the gooks were shooting at the guys trying to build this air base. So that's when we got sent out there, and we go out there, and as soon as anybody shot from there, we'd let go. I had a 50 caliber, and we had all kinds of stuff up there. Now that cut them down, and we didn't hear about it anymore. And then we started having patrols going out. We were helping them build bunkers and everything, so we could go to. And it's kind of I know at the end of the runway, you had 3 bunkers on each side, and the planes would come right over you, and that was scary. They would come right over you and land, and it's a loud noise because when they hit and they start shooting the plane the other way, to slow it down, and that thing would get loud. And so that, and then we had, like I said, we had along each side of the airport, the runways, we had boxes there or set up to fire if we came under attack, and they were manned. I think there was 5. Some of the bigger ones there were like 10 to 12 guys in the bunkers, and you'd have 2 up on top, and they had starlight scopes, and they had binoculars and everything else. They're always watching. They switched around. Yeah. And the worst part was when you were in the jungle in the monkey stuff. That was terrible. I'll tell you. Because your feet were wet all the time, and they'd have to just about, I was going to 3.5, maybe 4. If we were in there 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, they had to bring boots out because the boots would rot because you're in the water all the time. Well, when I got there, it was like, it was a nice country. Believe me, it was really warm. You didn't have to worry about snow, and it was nice, but it was hot. It got hot when you got in the jungles. It was sweating, and we had to wear our khakis, and they were a little bit heavier than what we needed. So people started getting really kind of faint and everything else from the heat. And eventually they sent us jungle fatigues. And they were camouflaged jungle fatigues. And that really, everybody was fine. I mean, it's very thin, and the air goes through it and everything else. The only thing you had to worry about was your boots, because you're in your boots and you're mud and water. You can't take them off. And what that does to your feet is horrible. And I can tell you, we get that fungus. And it took me a long time when I got back to get rid of that fungus. I had to put, every day I had to put my foot in basins with salt water and everything to clean them up. And then they finally gave me stuff from the VA to put on my feet. And it still bothers me sometimes. It's really hot and stuff. It doesn't go away that easy. What they had done when they built the base, they cut everything down about a mile out. And it was all rice paddies and everything, and they just took it all out. And they left trees on where the air base was along the way to protect the air base. But we were out in the jungle. They were out in that area, and we'd sit out there at night with starlight weapons where we could look around, and if we saw anybody moving, we shot. They were all known. They were all told. And there was even posters up there in Vietnamese that this is protected. If you come in, you're going to get shot. And a lot of people were shot trying to sneak in. First time I saw was probably about, I'm going to say about 10 to maybe 15 people get shot down. And they were going out. I was on the base. I was out there, and they were going out to do check out stuff. And all of a sudden, the gooks jumped up and started shooting at them. They cut them down. That's when I opened up and started shooting. And then they started shooting at us, but we had protection. But the sergeant called in, and he had the tanks. They're tanks, but they have wheels. and they came out and they had 50 calibers. They had two of them, and they started blasting away like crazy. And they didn't seem to bother us for a while. And then later on, they had a big, it was maybe, I'm going to say almost at the end of my first year over there, they had an attack. The lieutenant came in, says, "Get your guns up, put your flak jackets on and helmets and everything. We needed to go out." And that's when the first time we went out, and they were attacking the base, and they needed help. Oh yeah, well the first actually was I think what they said I did. I killed about four to five people right away because I had an automatic. I just started shooting, and then some of the guys came in behind me with the heavy weapons. They were the big guns. They had the belts. They had the belts of, and they would just go at it. And they had a guy would walk behind him holding the belts so they could go through the gun. And eventually, what they did is some of the guns got these things that they put on the end where it was like a roller. So when you put the gun on it, you rolled it over top of them, and they would start going up over the roller out of the back, out of the bag in the back. Mm-hmm. And that worked pretty good, except sometimes they get jammed, and that's, it was really wacky over there. And then you had the people that there were, you go out there and you start shooting, and you had these men that had spears, and they'd be sitting in the ground, laying on the ground, and you go through, and they turn around, you keep going, they come around behind us and started throwing spears at us. Jeez. Well, fortunately you had the flak jacket, but if you got hit in the butt or in the leg, you got hurt, I'm going to say it was probably about a month and a half, maybe 2 months, because they didn't bother us much when we first came in, because they didn't really know what was going on. I mean, they knew we were building stuff. And it was probably I'm going to say about maybe 2 months later is when we first started getting some snipers. They were shooting to see what we were going to do. And one of the, it was a colonel, he was in another base, he was Army, and he was there. When he got there, he said, "Don't do anything, let them shoot, just stay down." And so he says, they're going to come in closer and closer. When they come in, I'll tell you when, you just let go. And that's what they did. They came right up close to where it was a fence, but it was just a little fence that kind of held them off with concertina wire on it. And then he came up, and he kept watching. He had a scope, and he says, "All right, in about 30 seconds, I'm going to go. And when I say that, you let go." And that's what we did. And so everything went quiet. And we couldn't go out there because we didn't know what was back there. But in the meantime, when they had called in helicopters, and helicopters came in with their machine guns they had, and they came in and they were swooping down looking, and they came back and said, "There's all a bunch of bodies laying there," and we swept over and nothing's moving. Well, that didn't mean anything because a lot of times that's fake. So what they did is they flew away, and they thought they were gone, but they swung around behind us and came roaring in, and sure enough, there was about 4 or 5 of them were trying to get out of there, and they just let them have it. So when they did it, they just pummeled the whole side over there. It was pretty brutal, believe me. But then after that, man, I'll tell you, it started getting worse and worse, and and so they ended up putting Claymore mines out in a lot of areas and everything else, because they were trying to get in there to ruin the base, because the planes were coming in. The big bombers come in to refuel, and that's what we were protecting. So, yeah. You know what? It didn't bother me. It really didn't, because it was either me or them. And the fact that I went hunting, that helped too. When I first shot a deer, it bothered me. It bothered me all night. But then I got used to it, and that's what I thought about. These guys are like deer, and that's the way you had to be, because it's either you or them, and so that's what you got. You just numbed up on it, and that's what it was. They were shooting at us, and we knew they were they were trying to kill us. And a lot of times we go through the villages, and the villages would talk to the guy that was a Vietnamese who went with us. They would tell him that there were gooks out there, and to be very careful. And they would tell them where they'd seen them and where they were at. So they didn't want them, because what they did was they were going there and steal food from them. They'd grab men and make them do things, take them into the service. And they didn't want to be there. So a lot of times we went in and we started shooting the guys that didn't want to be there. They'd lay there like they're dead, and then we had an interpreter. He'd walk through and he'd talk in Vietnamese. All right, anybody who wants to come back in or want to be safe, you do it. So they would get up and they drop their stuff down, and what they would do is they would take all their clothes off and just had their pants on, and that's all they had to show that they didn't want to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened then too, after a while, the Vietnamese, the bad guys, would wait out there, and they got cut down. They'd have guys behind. So when the ones that got up to come back with the Americans, they cut them down. So it was really something. So what happened was, we'd have them stay there on the ground, and the guys would go out and check around to see if anybody's out there, and then they'd bring them in. Because they would come in and they'd tell you information that we needed to know, who it was and what it was, Yeah. And sometimes what we do, like the guys that were kind of lighter than me, if they were hurt, what I would do is they would put me down, and they put the guy on top of me and tie him around my waist and around my shoulder. And I'd get up, they'd help me up, and I'd walk with him in. And fortunately, I'm pretty bigger than some of the other guys. The big guys that had to be brought in, that was a problem, because some of these guys were big. And we drag them in, we get them in, and you could cut down the big bamboo, cut them down, and we had rope, we put rope around, and we lay them in and carry them in. And then a lot of times we'd call in the helicopters, and they would come in,
mm-hmm.
and you'd have 5. There's 3 that had the guns and 2 to carry people in. Because if they were coming in, these gooks were going to be shooting at us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of the times, and what would happen, the other planes would fly out away. And when they started getting income on the ones coming in, they go out and start hitting them with it. And plus, we started shooting our guns back at them to get these people brought in. It was amazing when we went into some of these villages and they saw the Americans. A lot of them, not a lot of them, some of them took off. The other people came, and they were so glad to see us. We were like the best thing they ever saw. And they came in, and a lot of them didn't have a lot of food. And when we came in, we had a lot of food, but we started sharing our food to the people, and they really loved us. And they also told our lieutenants and and us where these bad guys were going and who they were and everything else. So they became our lookouts, because they'd go out in the fields and they'd be out there working, doing their stuff in the paddies and everything, and they would see what was going on. And when they came in, they would tell us what was going on. So it was really something. Well, we were eating some of their food, and their food was like fish, and there was other stuff. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't fish. It was something else. And so we ate rice, a lot of rice, and then whatever they were cooking, that's what we had, and we never asked what it was a lot of the time, And then we had their sea rations, and sometimes it was better eating their food than the sea rations. When I got done with the first, I came back to Lompoc, and I was going to come back for a 1 month, and I was going to go back. But they changed my orders, and they said, you're not going home. You're going to go to Hawaii. You're going to relax, and then you're going to go through training. So I went to Hawaii, and I was there for 2 weeks with a bunch of guys that had already been over in Vietnam. Some of them I didn't even know. They were just bringing them in. And so I was there. It was really nice. Mama-sans, they're nice. So then we went to ranger training. They took us to another island, and it was like a volcano. You could see where it was a volcano one time. And that's where we went. And that was, nobody could go on there except for military. And that's where we went. And we went up there, and it was tough. I mean, it was all mountains and high climbing and everything else. And when you got up to the top, it leveled off and everything. But they wanted to, and so that's where I learned. I had to march 20 miles to get up there. And boy, I'll tell you, I was tired. And then when we got up there, we started going through stuff for about, I think it was 3 weeks, maybe a month, almost a month. And all of a sudden, these helicopters come in. And they said, hey, guys, you're going down. You're going to relax. So they put us in these and flew us back down into Hawaii, down to that island. And we were there for almost 2 weeks. And they said, okay, guys, we're going back for more training. They put us in the helicopter. They dropped us off. And we had to go up these cliffs again and get up there. And so being that I had done well shooting, they said they split up us. I ended up being a sniper. I had to go and I did a sniper. And then they said, you're going to become a heavy weapons specialist. I said, what do you mean? We'll show you. So they gave me this big gun, and you had a strap on it. You put it on, and you hold it on, and you were shooting 50 caliber bullets out of it. Then they had me on a 50 caliber gun on the ground, and I was shooting with that. And then they took me up on a plane, and they had a 50 calibers on there, and they had me shooting. The plane was shooting at things. So I was doing a lot of shooting for about a month and a half. There was a lot of vegetation, and there was nothing on. There were no people on there. They had moved the people away, and they moved them down to the southern part of that area, and they weren't allowed to go past. They had it all blocked off, and we went up there. And we had to. It was really very, very rugged. You had to be in good shape. And when you went to one side of it, you could look out. You could go out and look over the ocean and see the islands and everything out there. So we got up there, and that's where they had us go through a lot of training. And as far as becoming a sniper and also being a heavy weapons specialist, we were shooting machine guns, we were shooting rifles, sniper rifles. We were shooting. We had to train to shoot cannons. We had everything. And that was tough. It was really tough. So out of all the guys that I don't remember exactly how many it was. Out of all that, there was about 250 came out of that, and then we went through some more training further down, and that's where they took me because of my sniper. I could shoot a rifle, and I was really good at it. And that's where I ended up being a sniper. I went in there and I had to learn what to do as a sniper. And to be a sniper, you had to be able to crawl with a weapon. You had to be able to have night vision. Not when I say night vision, you had to be able to see things at night with your eyes. You had to find how to do it, and you had to listen to noises. You'd be laying there with a rifle on the ground, and they never told us at first that we were laying there, and they just said, you're going to be listening to see what's going on around you. And we laid there, and I'm going to say I laid there for about an hour, and I didn't hear anything, and I was just laying there. I said, what the heck is going on? Well, all of a sudden, I could hear it. You could just hear it like something was moving. And that just brought the hair up on me. I mean, I said, oh, my God. And it was coming from behind me. and then all of a sudden I heard something coming from the left of me, and I says, uh-oh. So then I laid down, and I just hunkered down, and these guys came by, and I didn't move. Now, I had camouflage fatigues on, but at night that doesn't mean anything. And they were walking, and one guy walked right in front of my face. I did not move because I was in the brush. I did not move. If he had come over maybe about 2 feet more, he would have run right into me. And I just laid there, didn't make a noise. And he went by, but he knew I was there because when I got back in, he says, "You did a good job. You didn't move when I passed by you." He says, "I knew you were there." I says, "Well, if you saw me there, what about the enemy?" He says, "Well," he says, "that's a problem. You're going to have to just do it so you're safe." But so I did, because some of the guys, when they came close, they tried to move and they made noise, and they got picked. So, and then we went through that, and then we had a lot of going up and down the mountains. We had one was a 20, I think it was a 25 mile hike we had to go on with full packs. And I'll tell you what, there were guys dropping off like crazy. I had to learn how to take a grenade, pull the pin, and throw it way out. And then when I threw it, then I had to hit the ground, because some of that would go over top of your head. It couldn't. I think maybe once or twice I could hear it going past me, hitting brush and everything. The only thing I had to worry about is if you were too far back, it could hit you. Yeah, when they had us in the cages, and what they would do is they would come out in the evening, okay, and they'd bring food out. And what they would do is they'd put their hands in, put the trays in, and what they taught us to do was when they put those trays in, put their hands in, put the tray in, you grab their hands, as long as it's just one guy, you grab both hands and yank them and hit them in the head, knock them down. And that's what we would do. And sometimes one guy came in and he had a knife, and knife was on his it was crawling in, and the knife was there, and he left it. We not tie it, but if it clips together, he would leave it open. And now this was not a real knife; it was a fake knife. It looked like a real knife, but it wasn't. And when he reached in past me to put the food in, I was supposed to. He didn't tell me. He says, "I'm coming in. If you think you see something where you can get away, you do it." Well, I had already known, because a guy told me when I was out. He was talking. He came back and he was talking. I heard him talking about the knife. So when the guy came in to put the food in, I reached over and pulled the knife out and stuck it in his face, and that's when he stopped. Now, it wasn't a real knife; it was a wooden knife. You couldn't hurt him. The guy got backed up, He says, "All right, that's what you're supposed to do." But other guys didn't do it, and they got in trouble because they made them stay in there, and they had to stay in there until they figured out what was going on. Well, most of the time, these guys would see what we did, and the next time they came out with food, they did it, So, but and they had other stuff too. We'd find a stick, and we'd hide the stick, and it would only maybe be about up to about 2 foot, and you could sometimes reach out through the thing and grab a bush, and then we would get there, and we'd take a knife, or not a knife, rocks and stuff, and we'd keep rubbing on it, and we keep getting them down to where we had a point, and we hide that underneath the ground, underneath the stuff, and that was to make it sharp, so that if you got stuck and you found that bamboo or the stick, and you made it into a weapon where it was very pointed, and they would come in, and you could stick it in their throat and kill them. And there was a lot of other stuff that they taught us in ranger training, what to do and everything. And it also told us what if we were being, if they were coming after us and we knew we were surrounded or something, we had to take our boots off. Take our boots off. Don't let them go, but tie them around your back, over your back, and walk. We had to walk because the boots, they follow the boots. But if you're walking and they could say, and I'll tell you what, my feet, and sometimes were like, they were killing me because they were walking over the stuff. Yeah, we had to take these logs. There was, I'm going to say they were probably about 16 feet. No, they're more than that. It had to be about close to 20 feet long. Big logs. They were probably 6 to 8 foot around, thick. And so we had to take that. We had the group of us, and we had to walk with it. And we'd walk with it. I'd be on one side, a guy be on the other side, ahead of me, and it was back and forth, And so we had to carry that. And then we got to a spot where you had to go down a hill. And I'll tell you what, that was tough. So what happened, what we learned out to do, is the first guy going down, he'd go down, and he'd pull back, and then the next guy would come down, he would pull back, you're putting your feet down to go down until you come over the edge. Everybody's walking at the same time, but going down this hill. Now, when the first guys got down that hill, if it was not a long hill, they would get down below and they'd hold it and let us come down. If it was a longer one, what they would do is they would stop, and then they would slide down and they'd pull it down, and we'd pull back and just work it down to the ground. And that was tough. So then once we got down there, this log, we had to pick it up, and we had to walk for a mile with this log. I was on one side, the guy was on the other side ahead of me. So we were back and forth, When we got done, my legs and my arms were killing me. But it showed that we could do it. And the guys were dropping out. The guys that dropped out didn't go through ranger training. So when I went back in there, so I went in there and I was in the villages. I had different weapons, and because I was going to be there with some other guys, and I have a sniper rifle with a scope on it, and then I had another one for during the day where I put on, and I could see during the day, I could see, but at night I had the starlight scope, and so there was day and night. And then I had another, I was able to shoot a heavy weapon where I had to carry it, and I had the ammo hanging over my shoulder, and I'd go to a place and I'd be walking with that ammo on me, and I had guys behind me that had boxes of ammo, and we set up. Well, the second deployment was, like I said, when I came back, I had gone through ranger training, and I had gone through. Really, it was very hard. And when I came back, but I knew there's only me. I don't remember how many of us. I don't remember how many of us came back from Vietnam the first time. But we came back, and that's when I became a sergeant, because I had guys working with me, for me, and we'd go to the villages and everything, and sometimes, they get to be friends with you, and they would tell you stuff, like I said, So the villages I had were very good. I don't remember all the, I can't remember a lot of the stuff that I used to talk to them about. I had, Dinky Dow meant, you nuts, I can't remember all the stuff we used to. I knew it then. I don't know it anymore. I can't remember it. But the people got to know us, and they could tell us stuff by using their hands, and they would get down on the ground, and they'd make on the ground. They'd make a trail. They'd set a trail, And they knew that. They would say trail, trail, and they do that, and they show, and they when they got to where the gooks were, they make a circle, and that trail would go up to, and we knew that they were there, and they would say dinky dow, things like that, and so we knew there was something up there. And a lot of times they would come with us. They get to, like I said, to a certain spot, and they would say, "You go," and they'd stay there because they didn't want to be there, and because if they knew they were doing that, they'd be in trouble. So that was about it. And then because I was a good sharpshooter, they pulled me and they started putting me in with some of the Marines towards the end, and I was moving around with the Marines. And at one point, I was up. We went over the border of North Vietnam, and we got up there because they had cannons and everything up there, and a bunch of us went up with the Marines. We went up there and we attacked them and destroyed everything up there. We had explosive bags with explosives in it, and we tie them all the stuff and ran fuses. They were fuses, but they were long, very long fuses. They were probably about a half a football because these things were big bombs. And when they went off, that whole area down there was completely leveled, and found out afterwards, it was a couple of days after when I went back in there, down below, there were all these cells down there, and there were hundreds of people in there, and they were dead, and it stunk. But they buried them, they got dug into the ground, and they had all these building, stuff down there, and that's where they were coming from. So it was really something. Eventually, I ended up going up to the border of South Vietnam and North Vietnam, and I went up there as a sniper and a heavy weapon specialist up there, and we went into North Vietnam, and we went up onto this mountain, and it was called Mui Naha, and we got on that mountain, and we had it set up with a 50 caliber machine gun. We had weapons and everything else, and it was where the North Vietnamese would come through to go down to the South Vietnamese. And we got up there, and we started killing them with the machine gun, with the 50 caliber. And that 50 caliber, I forget how, it goes out about, almost a mile or something, and it had scopes on it. And so you had to, when you saw them, you had to take and use the machine, the gun, you had to raise it up enough, and we had numbers on there to range it up, and we would shoot before we started doing stuff. We shoot down to see, and we had it all set up how far out they were was where we had to shoot. So we had to raise it up, and it was in there. And so we were there, I think almost a month, and they were going crazy. And we were there, and the lieutenant got information that somebody was coming down from behind us. There was a whole bunch of units coming out. So what they did is they said they were going to pull us out, and because we were in North Vietnam, and they came in. We took all our weapons, threw them in the helicopters, and burned everything, and just blew up everything we were, and got out of there. And that night they did make an attack, but the bombers were out there. And when they went down, they found out they were coming down. They were flying up there. And when they got down, they started shooting where they thought we were. And the bombers came in and just dropped bombs right on, blew the whole place up. It's amazing. And you could feel it when we were down. We were down further down. And that ground was really shooting, rocking and rolling it down there. And I really went out. That's when I went out off the base and set up in the base. What we would do is we'd go out, and with the guys going out, would be like maybe 30 guys went out. And that 30 guys, there may be about 6 to 9 or 10, I don't know, something like that, would be us. We'd be in there, but we would be in uniforms with either Marines or the Army, and we go out, and we're going out with them. The 4 or 5 of us would be in there, would be with, like, we were regular Army or Marines. And when we came in at night, or came in during the day, we'd lay down and get some rest, and then we get our camouflage stuff and go out at night. Just as the sun went down, we would go out, and we knew where we were going. You could see on what you were going to do. You're going to go out, because we did it during the day. We go out 100 yards, and we make a left, and it would say, turn left. And we go down, and it would say, all right, turn right at 2 miles, or two football fields. You're going to go to the right, and then you're going to go to the left right away, and you're going to set up down there. And so there would be about 20 of us. So 5 of us would go one place, another 5 would go over to another spot, and then you had a guy behind. They moved behind us, and they were sitting behind us. They were aiming behind us. So you had a guy in front and a guy in back. So if we came under fire in the front, we'd be there and we'd be shooting at them. And if that happened in the behind us, you had the guys behind us protect us, or vice versa. And then you had the guys in the middle. And the ones in the middle basically had starlight scopes, and they could look around and they could see where we were and anything what was going on outside. They could also check between the two of us. They could see if somebody was running to get behind us. So it was pretty neat the way they did it. What they had was up flying over top of us were these planes, and that's all they did. And they had these big scopes, and they could go around like the helicopters, and they shoot down, and they could see what was down there, and they could see people moving around, setting places up, and they would call back and say, this is the coordinates, there's people there, there's enemy there. And so they said, you're going to go here, you're going to go to the west, you're going to go to the east, and you're going to have guys coming in the middle, and when they start shooting, you guys are going to go and start wiping them out. So they had it all set up. So, and guys got killed. One of the ones that I really remember, like I said, is we went down the river, and they dropped us off. And we went in, and the Marines were there, and they told us what we had to do. And they showed us where we had to go. They gave the lieutenant what we had to do. And we went in. They stayed behind us. We went in, and we set up. Once we got set, the lieutenant sent back a message, clicks. And so the click would be maybe 20 or 25. You go click, 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 and it let them know. They would move in around us, behind us, and went there. And we got in there, and we'd sit there and watch, and we knew. And when we saw I'm going to call them the gooks, coming down the trail, we click and let them know it was, whatever the thing was. And so the guys behind us, they got set up. And when the enemy came in, when they got within about half a football or whatever, football or half a football, I don't remember. When they got in, we started shooting at them. When they started shooting back at us. The Army would go around, or whoever it was, the Marines, whatever, they would go around to the right and to the left, and they come in to the side, and they start shooting on them. So they got them caught in there, and they started shooting them, cutting them down. And we still kept shooting. We knew where we were. We knew where they were, and they kept shooting down. Now, there was a lieutenant with one, another lieutenant on the other side, and the lieutenant with us. So you had the 3 lieutenants talking back and forth on their whatever they were wearing, and so that's what we did. So this was okay for a little while, I don't know, and they figured out what we were doing. So I wasn't there, my group wasn't there, but another group went out, and they went out, and it was maybe about after 3 or 4 times we did it, they went out, and they started really getting hit, but they were getting hit in front, and they were getting hit from the side, because the guys from the sides were coming up. Well, that didn't work too good, and a few guys got killed and wounded and everything else. So what they did is later on, after that, they would send the guys out, and what they had was one of these ships, planes up on top that had the starlight scopes and everything, and they'd be over top, and they were watching, and they could see. They had, I guess, the heat. They could see people moving around, and they could see what was going on, and they would call in that the gooks were coming in. They were trying to come around us. So the guys that were on the sides, they would back up, and once they got back, we backed up. They told us we back up, and then the planes would be called in, and it's all coordinated. They had them up there. They knew they were coming in. When they saw we backed up, they called the fighters in, the jets come in, and the bombers. They come in and just I'm telling you, you see the stuff that hit the ground, just wiped out everything in the ground, and whatever was there. Mm-hmm. And you go out the next morning. The guys, I didn't go out. Other guys would go out, and they'd find pieces all over the place of weapons and everything. It was completely wiped out. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, when those bombs hit, the ground shook. It was scary. So I did that for a little bit. I mean, I think I maybe did that about five, maybe 6 times, 7, maybe 7 even. I don't remember, but it was scary. It really was. It took me down, when I went down the Mekong Delta to rescue Marines that were injured and everything, and they were under siege. That was something that was really, it still sticks in my mind, because I'll tell you, the bullets were flying all over the place. But the boat we were in was a heavy weapon boat. It was very thick, and you'd be hanging down, you hear bing, 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 bing. They were just shooting at it. It was bouncing around, but it was really thick. It was very slow because it was so heavily. But we had 50 calibers, and I had one of them, and I was in there shooting like crazy, and it's hitting my turret, and it was really the turret was almost 2 inches thick, and you could hear them bing, 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 Mm-hmm. And so you just had to keep your head down and stay where you were, and that's that was something. And they flew us in, and we landed in an air base, and then they got us in the trucks and took us down to the beach down there. It was fantastic. We had all kinds of food, all kinds of liquor, all kinds of whatever down there, and it was really nice. The only thing you had to be careful of was they had these, I forget what they were. They were out in the water, and they're long, and they're snake, like the water snakes. You had to be careful. So they had people out there in buoys. They were sitting there and they were watching. They had these big baskets, and they had glass on it, and they could watch it. If they saw them coming, they would get on, they wind the announcer. It would spin the thing, and it would go woo, like that, and it would let us know you had to get out of the water real quick, because they had those, and they had other fish that would bite you and they could kill you. And so they always protected that. But they had big nets out there, but sometimes they get through it, and that's when they had to check, But it was really nice down there. But in the villages, I got to tell you, I had a good time with the kids. The kids were so great, so nice. They wanted to play all the time, I had a ball, I had a bat. They learned how to, to play ball. They loved that. They had a ball. And the girls wanted to play, and the boys wouldn't let them play. And I remember one time, the girls came over and they wanted to see how we did this. And it happened to be that the boys were, I don't know, they were somewhere. They had something going on with the boys. And the girls came over, and they wanted to see the bat. They wanted to see the glove, and wanted to see the ball. And they wanted, they were asking, basically. And I didn't, they were talking to a guy who was, he understood what they were saying. What do you call him? Interpreter. And he explained, I told them what it was, and they go, oh, and they wanted to hold it, and I gave them the glove, and they were looking at the glove, and they were trying to figure out what they do with it. So I took it and I put it on my hand, and I showed them, like I had a ball there, and I put the ball in it, and I held it, and then they said, oh, they figured out what it was. So I gave them the glove. They tried it on. A few of them tried it on, and then they got they wanted the ball. So I threw the ball, and they tried to catch it. They couldn't figure out how to do it. So finally, after a few times, they figured out how to do the mitt. And actually, it was the first girl. The girl was the one that caught it first. And the boys were not happy. But yeah, so so then they were doing that. So when I went to I had to go back to for a week for rest and relaxation. When I was over there, I went over and I asked the guy who, one of the guys there. I said, "Do you guys have any baseballs?" He said, "Oh yeah, we got a whole bunch of baseballs." So I said, "Can I have those?" He says, "Yeah. What are you going to do? Play baseball?" I said, "No." I said, "There's kids down where I was," and I said, they saw my baseball and they loved my baseball, and I showed them what to do. And he said, "Oh," he says, "Sure." So he gave me 2 dozen, and I took them down with me, and everybody. So I'm coming out with these balls. They're going, "What the heck are you doing?" I says, "I'm taking them down to the kids." "What do you mean to the kids?" I says, "Don't worry about it. There's kids are down there that they know how to play ball." "No." I says, "No, well, they're going to know." So I took them down, and I had a couple of bats, and some other guys went with me, and we gave them the balls, and we gave them the bats, and we showed them how to do it. And every day, these guys were out there and they were playing with the ball and the bat. They thought it was a great thing. First of all, they took it, when they first got it, they got the bat, they started hitting it on the ground, like hitting the ball on the ground, like you're hitting what do you call it?
Golf?
Yeah. It was something like that. And I said, no. And then we showed them. And then they said, so then after maybe a week, maybe a little bit, I don't know, they started playing baseball. And the guys got out there and we cleaned up this one area and we put there's like jackets down, old jackets. Put jackets for first, second, and third base. So then the bunch of us got together and we showed them. The guy he underhanded, like threw the ball, and the guy that we threw it, he would the guy that was getting the ball, he hit it. And it go out in the field, and the kids are like, "Wow," And so we worked with them, and when we got done, and before we left, they were playing baseball down there all the time. They had a ball. They loved playing that baseball. Then we taught them how to play soccer, and we got soccer sticks. We go ask, and these guys are going, where are you getting this stuff from? We told them. One of the guys sent home, and they sent it to us. And so we showed them how to play soccer, and they were playing soccer. They loved the soccer, and unbelievable. So that was the nice part of the whole thing. You got to be with the kids. They really enjoyed it. And when we left, they were all upset. They were all crying. They were all upset because we were leaving. But the guys are coming in. We told them what was going on, and we went back with them, brought them in, and we showed them, told them who they were, and told them, and they took over, and I guess everything went fine. But that was the nice part about it, That was the greatest part of the whole 2 years I went over there was working with the kids and doing that stuff and helping the people. Well, we went into the villages, and we were there at the villages with the people, and they were glad to see us, and we were giving them, some food and stuff, some of our sea rats and things like that, and they got to be friendly with us, and so there were people in the village that weren't good, and they could see this, and we noticed that the people were starting to change. They weren't as friendly, and a couple of the guys came to us, and our interpreter was there, and he told them that there are VC in here, and they're worried because they were told that if we stayed there, they were going to come and destroy their homes when we left. So what we did is we stayed there for a little while, and we started moving out slowly, one at a time moving out. And I think there was 5 or 6, I don't remember how many, maybe there might have been 7 people. They were concerned that they were going to get killed because they were basically like the mayors, So they wanted to know if they could come out with us. And of course we said yes. So they came out with us, and it wasn't the next day, but the day after that, 2 days after that, um, the the uh, the bad guys came in, the gooks came in, and they were starting to rough up the people. Now, how we knew was up in the air, there was a plane up there, and it was flying around, and they have this, they could see down, they could search down, and when they got down there, they saw them lining up the men and everything, and they called, and the guys were standing there, and they're holding their guns at the guys, and they were trying to talk to them about what was going on and everything else, and they were trying to get, I guess, whatever it was. So anyway, what happened was the people lost some of their men and women, and they stayed, but they kept coming back. The Vietnamese, the gooks kept coming back, checking them and everything else. So what happened was, I didn't go. It was the I don't know if it was the Army. I think it was the Marine. I don't know. It might have been the Army. Went out there and set up one night, and they set out. And when the gooks came in and starting to harass them, when they went out, they killed some people. When they walked out, they let them have it, and they wiped them out. So then what they did is they were worried that they were going to go in there and destroy that village. They were going to hurt the village. They got the good guys, the Vietnam guys come in. The good guys come in, and they protected the village. They got into a heavy firefight over there, but the Americans came in, not us, but the Army or the Marines, I don't remember what it was. They came in, and they just let them have it in there. And they had the planes coming in, the helicopters coming in, shooting them down and everything else. And then what they did is they protected the village for a while, and nothing happened. And that's when they left. So I was with the Marines and some of the Army. So it was about 5 or 6 of us. I don't remember. It was maybe 7, I think. We went with them because we were snipers and heavy weapon specialists. So it didn't matter back then who we were. They just wanted the weapons. So we went into villages that were being the enemy were trying to get them to do stuff that they didn't want to do. They wanted to. So they set up camps and everything, and they were hurting the Vietnamese. They just, all they wanted to do was to do their rice and everything, their fields and everything. But they were coming in, they were taking food from them, and they were taking what they call the papasans. They were taking them away to fight with them, and and the women were getting raped and everything else. So we went over there, and they attacked quite a few times. And mainly the Marines and some of the Army were out there, and they had big battles out there. But I was basically inside the compound. But I would go out occasionally because I was a sniper, and I get out there and sit with them at night, watching with the starlight scope and everything, to see if anything came in. And people came in; they were coming in at night, and I pick them off, and then they start shooting back, and then the Marines would be behind us. We'd lay down, and they start shooting, and then they took off the gooks. So that only lasted a couple of times, and then we didn't see that anymore. And we're just sitting there, and they said, okay. They sent me back, but then they didn't hear anything for a while. I didn't go back, but some other guys went back. They had some more trouble. So but I was in the Air Force, but it didn't matter over there. Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah, well, what happened was the village. They were in the village, and we were there, and we went through, and we gave them food, and gave them stuff, and we went on, and the VC or the gooks came in, and they didn't like the fact that we gave them food and everything, and they took it, and they killed some of them just because they had it. And what they did is then they walked away with the food that they had, that we'd given it to them. So they were vicious. I mean, yeah, we'd go over there, but they would massacre some of the people, and the genitals usually got cut. Their eyes were cut out or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and and they do it in the where the when we were in the camps with the people, the villages, and they did that to say this is what we're going to do to you if you don't help us, and so that was a problem. And what happened was a lot of the villagers would ask for protection, and depending on where they were, they would have like the Marines or somebody come over and stay around by them. The first time, that was something that was a problem in that we had to ride around and we had to go to the villages, check them and everything, and because they were on the outside of the village, out of the air base, because there wasn't anything up. They could walk in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, they put up barbed wire and everything else to keep everybody out. But they had places where they had gates where they would allow the villagers come in. When they came in, they had the Vietnamese people. They were there, and they would check out. They would search them and everything else. They talked to them and everything else. And then if they were okay, they'd come in. And quite a few times they found people that were trying to come in. They were going to trying to do stuff. They'd find stuff on them that could possibly hurt people inside.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to be very careful. But it wasn't that bad after a while because they knew this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But then one time they came and they were in there, and like I think I said, there was guys in the brush and everything. When they came in, they got up and started shooting in towards the Americans. They were shooting at the Americans and their own people. Oh, the tunnels? Yeah, I went in there and it was we were crawling through there, and I went in, but I didn't go in as far as some of those guys went, and I just kind of stayed out a little bit. But they went in to check to see what was in there. They found bodies, they found ammo, they found this, that, and the other thing. And I think they found, if I remember correctly, they found a few people in there that were still alive that they pulled out. They were alive. They weren't dead or anything. But I know I went in, but I didn't go in. I wasn't allowed to go all the way in. You had to go in. Went in and went down some stairs, and it was like, I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but I remember going in there. Yeah, what they had was they take a rope and they put it on the ground, and they have it down along a bush, down on the bush, and then underground a little bit in the trail. And when you walked, they knew where the trail, what was there, but we didn't. And you'd walk by, and it was a trap. So when you walked in, you stepped on something, and it would set off this rope. It would pull you up in the air, and just hang you up upside down. And when that happened, if they were out there, they see you hanging that tree. Even if you had people with you, they start shooting. They would at least get somebody. So that's what they used to do. Mm-hmm. And I never had it happen, but we know people that did, or there were people that did happen to them on those trails. Because I mainly didn't go on the trails that much. If I went in on a trail, it was only to go in to bring munitions, ammunition, food, and stuff like that. So off the river, it wasn't that much. In the city, it was different. It was all different. You just, you walked and you had to be careful. People shooting out from the windows and stuff. Most of the time, that never happened. I don't remember the snakes, but they were poisonous. And there were some that were real small. They were maybe about, I'm going to say, maybe 6-7 inches long, maybe 8 inches long. And they would slither through the grass. And if you had your hand down there, they may just go over it, or they may bite you. So when I only had it maybe once or twice where I had my hand down and one went over, but I didn't move my hand, and he just went over it. But then what happened was, after he got over it, he kind of coiled up because I guess he figured something was warm, and that's as soon as he got past, I pulled my hand up, and I also knew he was around there. So I just kind of moved around, and then it would take off. But at night, you couldn't tell, So it was very hard. But as long as I got my hand out there, I had my stuff on. I was pretty safe. Yeah, yes. Yes, the thing was, they'd put those spikes down in the ground. They dig a hole, they put those spikes down, and they sit it there with those spikes up. And then they take and they put stuff on the ground that would, like sticks that were like thongs or whatever you call them, and they're soft. So when you walk, you'd fall right through, right in there, and impale your foot. And what they had was, it was like, at the end, it was like you would take a shark, stick it into the shark, and he couldn't get off. Well, that's what they did. Mm. So you had to be very careful. And they really covered everything up real well. So most of the time, when we were in areas where we weren't sure what was going on, we'd have half of us on one side, half on the other side of that trail, and we'd go along. But we had guys in front, and they had these dowsers. You walk in front, and you walk them in front. And if there's metal underneath the ground, it picks it up. It'll go, real light, but you could hear it. And they'd stop, and they'd start looking around, and sure enough, they'd have something like a knife or something in there that was metal. Or we had the pants, then we had a jacket. It was like a real light jacket, and it had stuff in it, and he would come down, and the jackets, they stayed out. We didn't tuck them in, and we were told not to do that because of the snakes, to leave it out. Never put it in, because they would go in there, and a lot of times it was when it's cool for them. It was cold, and they'd come down, and they would go in, because if you didn't have it out, they'd get in on your stomach, and that's where they coiled up and they stayed. And if you moved, you could get bit. So that's what they always told us. At night, if you're going out, you don't put your jacket, you don't put your shirt all the way down. You just leave it hang out. Oh, I was up in a tree, and I was a sniper, and I was sitting there, I was watching, and I was looking out my starlight scope, and all of a sudden I felt something coming down from above me, coming down into my neck. And I said, what the heck? And then I realized it was a snake, and it came down on my right side, my right leg, and went right down and dropped into the ground. But I'll tell you, it scared the crap out of me. I almost peed in my pants. Oh, I'm going to tell you, it probably took me, I'm going to say, it had to be about a minute and a half. I just sat there. I let it go because he was coming down. I tried not to move at all. And he went down, and I thought he was going to go over my uniform, but he went inside. So the only thing I could do was just sit there and let him go through. And he went down through and went right down my legs and right out, because my feet were on a branch. I had it on the branch, and he went down, and he went around behind my leg and dropped down my pants. And that snake wasn't very big. I'm going to say that snake was maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 inches long. It's a small snake, but they're the ones they're very poisonous. Mm-hmm. The big guys, you didn't mess with those. I mean, you knew they were coming, or they were there, because you could hear them. And those are the pythons. And I didn't have any. I never had. I saw the pythons, but I never had any problems with it. Usually they move away. But I know some of the other, like the Marines or whoever was there, they had one guy he was trying to. What they do is they bite you, and then they start curling around you. They start, and fortunately, he had other people with them, and they shot the snake. They nicked the guy also, but it was better than nothing, Oh, that was the one where I got shot. Yeah. I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, bam! I heard the gun, and I also get hit. And I said, what the heck? And I put my hand in. I said, what the heck? And there was the Bible. And it didn't go through. It was pretty thick. And I had it in my jacket on my left side, and thank God. I mean, I had a bruise. I had a big bruise. It hurt. I couldn't hardly breathe. This my side. When I breathed in or out, I could feel it. And so, when I got hit, the other guys said, "You got hit." This is at night. You could hear it. Bam! It hit me. It had to be from a long, because I didn't really. I heard the gun later. It hit me first, and then way off I heard it. And so everybody hit the ground, and I said, I got hit in this shoulder. I got hit in it was on my chest. And so they laid, I laid down, and one of the guys came over, and he pulled my stuff off, put his hand up there, and he says, there's something here, and he says, but it feels like there's metal here. Well, what the metal was my jacket that I had the flak jacket inside. So he called in, and they told us to come back out. Well, when I came back out, I mean, it hurt. I was having trouble. It really hit me, but I couldn't find it. So when I got in, I took my clothes off, and it dropped out. It had gone down into below my jacket, and it was hanging in there. And I have it home, but I dropped it. I had it home. I don't know if I still have it, but I had a bruise there, red and blue, and I was very lucky. And that's what they said. You were lucky, because it would have been in my chest. I don't think where it hit me. It was more towards the left arm, right where the socket is. It was right in that area. And boy, I'll tell you, it hurt. It bothered me for a while. So I didn't have to go out for a while either, because they kept me in. Yeah. I was very lucky. I don't know. I believe me. I still think about that. I still thank God. Believe me. These guys are going crazy. They're going, holy moly! Talk about luck. And the thing was, it wasn't a real big book. It was a little. I'm going to say it was probably maybe 6 inches, maybe 7 inches long, 6 inches long, and maybe about 5 inches wide. Across. It was a small one. So, everybody got these Bibles if you wanted them. Being in a firefight, when you're first there, it's scary. I mean, you're not used to it. Now, the only thing I can say is that we used to play it, like I said, in the woods, so I knew somewhat what it was. But when those guns start coming over your head and you're laying down on the ground, you're hoping, and some of the bullets are hitting in front of you and everything. The only thing you got in front of you is your sack that you throw in front of you. In that sack had a plate in it, and you put that down. You had a helmet. It was a flak jacket and a helmet. The flak jacket would you get hit with it. It'll hurt, but it wouldn't go through. It had I don't know what mesh and everything in there, and it would stick. It wouldn't go through. But boy, I'll tell you, you get hit with it. I got a hit. I guess it was on my leg one time. No, it wasn't my leg. It was my on the side. I got it, but it didn't do anything. But it hurt. And where else did I get it? I got one other time. It hit my chest. That's what it was. It hit the chest. And I had the flak jacket on, and it had like a piece of steel in it, inside of it, and it would catch it. It would hit, and it hurt. It really hurt, but it didn't go through. That was the only time. But most of the time, they were trying to shoot you in the head. That's what most of the time. From the throat up, they try and hit you. You had to be careful, because the throat, for the most time, wasn't as protected as the rest of the body or the head. Well, when we got the firefights, I always got scared. I think only one time was a guy came. That was that guy this guy came in. I was walking downtown with some guys, and when I went into the city, I said the city was a town. I went in, and we were walking down, and this guy came out and he started shooting, and we didn't have any guns. We hit the ground. He was probably maybe about a little less than a block away, and he was starting to shoot. But there was people too there, and they were falling down, so we all fell down. And two soldiers, actually the Marines, were walking. They had guns on them, and they dropped and they started shooting. They killed them. There were actually two of them they killed. But we weren't supposed to carry any weapons off base, because what happened was they were losing guns. Guys would get drunk and they drop the guns and they forget them and everything else. So when you went off, you weren't supposed to carry a gun. Mm-hmm. So, but the Marines were out there, and there was other, they were around a lot, and they were allowed to carry the guns because that's where they were. They were in the cities and stuff for a lot. Yeah, that's Jesus God. I could have been dead if I didn't have my flak jacket and stuff in it. Mm-hmm. And it was just luck. But what are you going to do? You're out there. There's nothing you can do. You can't lay there and just hope that they're going to go away. You don't have any choice. Now in the towns, that's where you worried the most. I worried the more being in the towns because you never know who you're walking by. Yeah, you had to be careful in the city because you didn't know who was there and what they had. Because they have a gun, but they had clothes that were kind of baggy and everything, and you didn't know. They didn't have to be a rifle. It could have been a handgun, like a 45, and that they had a lot. There was a lot of 45s over there, so you had to be careful. All of a sudden they'd be walking down the street and they go past you and they turn around and they shoot you. Mm-hmm. So that happens. And only time I saw it was a couple of times, but I wasn't there. I wasn't that close to it when they started shooting down on the street. And some people got shot. We just hunkered down, and then the police or whatever you wanted to call them, they came around and started shooting back at them. They had a battle out there. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, for the most part, it wasn't that. I mean, it was dangerous, but it wasn't just a few times maybe. Mm-hmm. We were riding down on one of the we were going somewhere in the car, in the truck, and we were all sitting in the back, and all of a sudden the truck started getting hit with gunfire. And the only good thing was the guns, the back of it was they had protectors in going down, and so everybody hit the ground. We all got off our seats and jumped on the ground. Everybody's on top of everybody else, and so you never knew. And they had grenades. You'd be walking, and all of a sudden somebody pick up, go in the pocket, and throw a grenade out. So you never knew. Didn't see much of that. A couple of times down in I don't know, down south, further down in Vietnam, where the cities were, you had to be careful because of grenades. And that's the only time I saw it was down there. Yeah, the couple of guys I talked about were close to me. I mean, they weren't I knew them. I worked with them, but they weren't friends. They were, they had their own clique. I had my own clique, but I knew them, and there's nothing you can do with it. There was a few of them that I knew, especially up towards North Vietnam. We made an attack, and I had my Starlight, I had my scope with me and everything, and they were going up, and they came under attack, and I didn't know these guys. I was just going out because I had my scope and everything, and it was about maybe, 10, 12 guys got killed. I don't remember. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when we were over there, they had helmets, but you couldn't really wear them because where we were and what the conditions we were in, you couldn't really wear those things. You'd have to go out with a cap on. We had, Oh yeah, I mean, it bothered me. I knew a few of them that I was friends with, and they got killed. And yeah, it bothers you, but you have to let it go. I felt bad for it. In fact, two of them, I don't remember how many it was, but two of them were good friends of mine, and they both had wives and kids, and I knew them. I felt very bad, and in fact, I even wrote letters and sent it back to them and told them I felt sorry and told them that I'm going to miss them. So it's not nice. It's not easy. That's the hardest part of the whole thing is seeing your friends die. No, no, I didn't. I just knew I was going. The first time I went over, it didn't bother me. I just didn't, I used to play golf. And like I said, I used to play it. And it was, when I first went over, I didn't realize what it really was to be in fighting. And I was shocked watching people die and everything else. And then it really got to me that this happened because I lost friends. And then when I got sent over there a second time, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. They had to go. And, but, after that, when I got there, it bothered me when guys got killed, but it wasn't as bad as my first time because I knew what was going to happen. The first time I went over, I didn't realize what. I mean, it's one thing to play in the woods, it's one thing, but when you have to play it real, it's another thing. And a lot of good friends. I miss them. I still think about them. Oh, yeah. I mean, this shouldn't have happened. The Americans should not even been in that. But there's nothing I could do about it. And then once I got there and it was bad, I felt bad for these people, but I had to keep, I had to worry about myself. And when I came back, I still had problems, and sometimes I still have problems now. A loud noise behind me, I jump. The siren goes off. Sometimes I wake up, and I'm a fireman, and it wakes me up right away. As soon as that siren goes off, I hear it, mm-hmm. And I don't even go out anymore, and because I'm too old. But yeah, it bothers me. I still think of things. Still think of friends of mine that died over there that I were good friends with, and they were, some of them, a few of them were from where I lived. Yeah, that's something that never goes away. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you live with it. It's like I could be walking out in the street now and see somebody get shot, and I'm going to feel bad about it, and I'm going to try and help them. But it's life. It shouldn't happen, but sometimes it does. Oh, that didn't take long. I would say I was probably there maybe 2-3 months. I got to say maybe 3 months. And I said, I don't want to be here anymore. We shouldn't even be here, But it was nothing I could do. What could I do? I had to be there. And then to come back again, I had to come back again. But that's what happened. I couldn't. It was either that or I was going to go to jail. Yeah. I mean, really. I mean, what bothered me was I was being sent over, and people were spitting on me, calling me all kinds of names and everything else, and I had no choice. It was either that or I'd go to jail. Yeah, that's what it was. You couldn't. Only thing you get out of it is if you got shot or wounded, or you got some kind of disease that was going to kill you, or whatever. But you were going. And I think the reason I got out, came back, halfway decent is because I knew what I did. I used to play Army and everything, so I kind of knew what to do. How to, duck down or this, that, and the other thing. We played. And that's what I think. I don't know. You got somebody coming out of New York City. Yeah, they're running around. They're running around for bullets. So people are shooting at them now. But back then, they didn't have that. The worst was that the people, the Americans, some of the Americans went crazy, and they took it out on innocent people because they didn't like them. They didn't like being there, and that happens. It happens all over the place. There's good people and bad people, and the bad people are the ones that cause more trouble than the good people, because they make the good people see that there's people in there that are trying to kill them, and they're Americans and they're trying to kill because they're stupid. And it's not only Americans. There's a lot. It's all around the countries. You have people that are very good and they're trying to defend themselves and defend their people, and you got other ones that are out to destroy people and kill the people. So, and that's the way it is. It's been that for years, forever. You know. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what I said. There were people there that had on their, like I said, on their weapons, they had little clicks on them where when they shot somebody, they put a click on it. How many? And it was like got to the point where they would say, "Oh, look at how much I got 25 here. How many you have? Oh, I got 15." And it was like playing chess. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was these guns. After a while, like me, I didn't say anything, but other guys like me, they went and said, "Hey, these guys are putting notches on their guns." And sometimes the sergeants would say, "That's all right. What difference does it make?" But then when they came in, and they would say, "Hey, you're not doing this. You're not putting that in. You start cutting the handles of the guns as strike. He says, you're going to end up going to jail, and you're going to go into prison for a while." And so that was going on, and I saw it, but I just thought it was disgusting. And then finally, they did something about it. So when I came back the second time, when we went through, we had to go through, and they gave us all for a week. You're going to do this, that, and everything. And it came up again. If we see any marks on your rifles where you're killing people and you're putting rifle marks on there, you're going to get thrown in jail. So, and guys did it anyway, and they went to jail. What they call jail over there. They would go over for 30 days. They were stuck in and then they were not allowed to go out again. Oh, I don't think as far as I'm concerned, I tell you the truth, I don't understand why we got into it to begin with. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what it was all about. I went because I was told to go. Yeah, but then when I was growing up, we had to go into service, mm-hmm. and I chose the Air Force. I thought, hey, I'm going to go to the Air Force. That's better than being a ground pounder. But I ended up being that anyway. Mm-hmm. And besides, if I had gone in as a soldier, it would have been 2 years, not 4 years, like I had to go with being in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. So, but I took the Air Force because I thought it was going to be easy. Never did I know. No, I don't know. It was a lot, because when you got a machine gun, mm-hmm. and I couldn't tell you how many people I killed. Some guys would put it on their helmets and things like. I didn't do that. I was there for one thing. That was to help the people. I wasn't mm-hmm. there to be, some big guy with all these. Look at that. Look at my helmet. This is how many people I killed. Why? Why would you do that? But they did it. I couldn't see it. I didn't like doing that. You mm-hmm. killed somebody. But they were going to kill me. So maybe they got on their helmets, they have scratches on it, which they did. Some of them had it on there. If they had helmets, they had scratches on it. The first few times, I don't know how many, but yeah, every time I killed somebody, then it bothered me. It did. And because I killed somebody. But the thing was, if I didn't do it, he was going to do it to me. But it bothered me to have to kill somebody, or not kill him, even shoot him. But when the guys I would shoot, I'd get them and I'd tie them up, and I had ties, tie them up, and then I would take and I put Band-Aids on, put a tourniquet on them or whatever, and help them out, But this was after we're finished the fighting, and all of us did. We always tried to help them out, mm-hmm. But you had to be careful because they'd be laying there like they were dead, and they'd have a knife behind their back, and they'd be laying on it. And mm-hmm. as soon as you got close, they'd get up and stab you. So you had to be very careful. So what we did is we take the guns and we push underneath them and try and turn them over. And if they resisted, then we knew something was under there. And then that's when we put they would put. I didn't. I put it by his chest, but the guys behind me, because there'd be three guys. There'd be one in the front, one on one side, one in the other, and one in the back. And the guy in the back would put the gun, his gun right on top of his head, and said, "Go ahead, do it." And a couple of times the guy did. He just wanted to die. And I didn't. I heard him. I didn't do it. I wasn't there when he did it, but I heard it. It was done. Mm. You try and bring the guys in. You don't try and kill them. They're going to try and kill you. You're going to kill them. If they're killing somebody you think they're going to get hurt, you kill them. No. When I first started, it was just, we're going to shoot him. But then I got to think about it. I shot him, and I left him there. But the guy was still alive, and so, and then what happened was, a lot of times, the medics would go over there, and these guys had stuff, and they'd kill him. They'd stab him or something. They'd do something. They wanted to die. Because for them, if they killed somebody, they died killing the enemy. That's what they felt. That wasn't for me. This is what I was told. That these guys come in, they're suicide. They're there for a reason, to kill Americans. No, the first time I came back, there was some, but it didn't bother me. When I came back the second time, we were told that there was demonstrations out there, that the police were there and some of the military were there, and that when we go through, we're to stay in straight line, look straight ahead, and ignore everything. Just because they said, if somebody doesn't do that, we're going to pull you out, and you're going to go into the break. You're going to go through, and it was Army, Navy, and whatever, Marines that were all coming over, and so that's what we did. We just marched through, and they were throwing stuff, and they were booing us and calling us stuff, and we just went through, and they drove them crazy. Mm-hmm. They drove those guys crazy because we wouldn't do anything. You could see it. I mean, you could see it as you're coming up, and so that's what we did. And I think maybe there might have been a couple of things that happened where some guys might have gotten a little crazy, because I know they said they pulled some people out of of us out, not me, but other people. Mm-hmm. They pulled out because they couldn't handle it. So. Well, because when I went over first time, they were there when I was going to fly, and they were all there. No, I went on the boat. On the boat, they were all there doing that. They were already saying that, and it bothered me then. And and there's, where are you going? You're going over to war. You're going to kill people. This, that, and everything. And they were screaming. And the sergeants, the people, the lieutenant and the sergeant already told us, just keep walking, ignore it. Don't do anything. They're just going to try and get you to do something to cause a problem. So that's what we did. We just did what we were told. And when the second time came, we already knew. Well, I did. And then I already knew. And I was a sergeant, and I was telling those guys exactly what was going to happen and what I did when I came back the first time. And we had no trouble. All these guys, they just did what they had to do, and they went through. And they got thrown on, they got watered. The cops were there, and they were shooting hoses at the cops were shooting hoses at them, these big fire trucks and everything. That second time coming back, and they were doing that all the time. Oh yeah, when I got back to base, they were disgusted. They said, "This is not America." They said, "Those people aren't Americans." He said, "They're rabble. What do you call them?" Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, they're anarchists. They don't believe we should be there. But then, like you said, if we didn't help these other countries, they'd be over here. I didn't like them at all. I didn't think they were Americans. I thought they were just to me, these were kids that were brought up and they had everything, and they didn't know what to do. They don't know how to become a human being who works a job and loves this country. And that's the way I felt about it. And I still feel that way when I see these guys doing stuff like that. Now, there's sometimes when you need to do that. It's stuff that's injustice that you can do. But this is Americans trying to save lives and things like that. That's the way I look at it. I may be wrong, but that's the way I look at it. We did something to help this country. I don't know what good it did. I mean, they're good people now, but North Vietnam is screwed up, and but South Vietnam, they seem to be doing very well. Well, when I came back, if I hear a loud bang behind me, I jump, because you don't know. And I went through therapy and I learned, and people yelling at me and stuff like that. I got over that. The thing was, I came back and I had I wore my jacket. I had a jacket that was, I was in Vietnam and stuff like that, and people would yell at me, and sometimes they spit at me. Oh, you're a scumbag or something like that, And you should be dead, and I just ignore it, and that's the only thing you can do. My father knew, because he had been in World War II for 4 years, and he came back. He knew what it was, and he knew what was going on with me, and he would come in and he'd knock on the door and he'd say, call me, and when I'd hear him, I said, yeah, Dad, what's wrong? He says, he says, can I come in? I said, yeah. So he'd come in and he says, look, Bob, you're having a problem. You were yelling and screaming again, and watch out, and this, that, and the other thing. He says, you got to do something about that. I says, but what do I do? He says, well, I'll tell you what you do. You can, when you get in, and I do it now. I do it right now. Put cotton balls in your ears, and then when you go to bed, put a scarf over your eyes and just breathe. And it'll help you, And it did. It worked. And I also went to therapy. I was going through therapy too. I had to go to therapy 3 times a week, and because I was having issues waking up and stuff. And so they worked with me, making noises. I had to sleep there and stuff, and I got used to it. And I can't remember exactly everything, but they helped me through it. And now it doesn't bother me. Occasionally I'll hear a fire siren going by and I'll wake up, but now I don't, as much. But when I came back, any noise at night, it just made me, so that's when I started putting the cotton balls in my ears, so I didn't hear it as much. Oh yeah, I mean, I was sleeping, and there was a lot of noise and banging, and I jumped up and I hit the door, and I thought something was happening, and I hit the door, and I hit the door hard, and the first time it didn't, my father came, he's in the room next door, he got out and he says, what are you doing? I said, I don't know, something scared me. I thought I didn't know where I was. So that happened, and I did a couple of times. The door got messed up, and eventually, it started to calm down. What he said is, I'm going to leave the door open, and I said, well, he says, don't leave the door open. And I'd wake up and the door was open, and I realized what was going on. I went back to sleep, but it took a while because you just don't come back from Vietnam or from war, and they say, all right, you're done, And it used to be you came back from World War II, you went through therapy and everything. You went through stuff. You went to a base, and they worked on you at the base. They did at where I was, but it wasn't that much. Well, when I got back. I went into public service, like gas, like I said, and I was doing ditches and putting pipes in and everything else. And then I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this. And I stayed, and I worked for him, but I started going to school. 2 years of college, and so I did that. And I said, you know what? And I still had my job. And I said, I got to find something else other than doing ditches and everything. So I went to college again, and I got I was a graduate, and I got a job with UPS, and I was doing their coding for the computers and everything. So I was working on that. I learned how to do that, and I was doing that, and I became a manager, and I had a people working for me, and we're doing all the coding and doing stuff like that. Jimmy and I went up to Highland Mills, and he went up, he moved up there, and I eventually came up, and he had a house up there. It was a big old house. It was very very old, and he and his wife, they had kids and everything. There was a house behind it. Was a shares house, whatever, and it was a house where as one bedroom it had a living room and a kitchen, and it was great for me because I was across the street from him, and I was there for I don't know how many years, and that's where I started going to college and everything, and then he moved down to North Carolina, and I left there, and that's when I came down to Allendale. I don't know. That's where I met your grandmother. Yeah, I met her at BD, and we got to be friends, and I started going out with her, and it's been that way ever since. And she's been very good for me, and I'm very lucky I have her. So, and then I got you guys. I can remember when you're doing the diapers. so, so I've had a very good life. I can't complain. I can't complain at all.